I'm Alex. Welcome back to Trip of Our Life. Today we're going to get this bus out and ready to head 1,400 miles south down to Key West, Florida. We're going to cover a pre-trip inspection, firing up the bus, getting it out of the barn, hooking it up to the trailer, and loading our Tesla onto the flatbed. For me, on this bus, a pre-trip inspection starts with checking the tire pressure. So we have 8 tires. We have 2 on the front axle, 4 on the drive axle, and 2 on the tag axle. Everyone has different tire pressure needs, but on this bus, I like the front axle, both these tires, to be about 100 PSI. I like 90 PSI on the drive tires and about 100 on the tag axle. Checking them is pretty straightforward. I use a high quality analog gauge, but there's a lot of great digital ones too. The most important thing is find one that you like and keep using the same one, because at least, even if it's off by a couple PSI, it should at least be repeatable for you. This one's right on the money. To check the tire pressure on a dually, you're going to need a gauge with a long valve stem so that you can reach the valve on the inside tire. Usually you have to reach through one of the holes on the outside rim, or maybe if you have dualies, you might have valve stem extensions that bring it all the way out to the front, in which case you don't need the long stem here. Valve extensions can work. I actually removed them from this bus because they were leaking and causing me problems, so I took them off. I'd prefer to keep things simple and just use the longer stem. Those are both good. So is the tag axle. We're good to go on this step. Next step for me is check all the fluids on my engine. So I'm going to be checking the engine oil and the transmission fluid and our coolant level in this tank up here. Very fortunate that this engine doesn't burn any oil, but it's always good to check. Whenever you're checking your coolant, make sure that the engine's been off for a while and everything is completely cool. In addition to making sure your transmission fluid is in the correct level, which ideally you should do while the engine's running, you also want to smell the coolant. See if it smells burnt or funny. It shouldn't really have much of a smell at all. If it does, it could be a sign that something's wrong. If you haven't noticed already, that is not the factory cooling system for this bus. I added electric fans. We'll talk more about that in another video. That's a whole nother story. Let's get into what we need to do to start up this bus. It's not quite as easy as your car at home. It's not too hard, but first things first is we're going to disconnect it from our battery tender here. So we're just going to disconnect this. So this bay here is where all of our chassis batteries are stored. This has nothing to do with our solar. This is just for the engine. So we have 4 12-volt batteries in a 2 series 2 parallel configuration to give us 24 volts, which is what the engine and starter and alternator all operate on. We have a master switch in here to disconnect the batteries. So whenever the bus is sitting for a long time, we turn the switch off so that there's no drain on the batteries. So all we need to do is just reach in here, flip the switch on. And thankfully, that's all we need to do in this bay. We are done with our pre-trip and we have everything disconnected. So now we are ready to fire up the bus. We have our batteries turned on. So now we get to come up to the cockpit here and fire it up. So this part is a little different than what you're used to. There's not a normal key, but very first thing we have to do is engage the circuit breaker down here. So we flip this switch on. We get a green indicator on the dash, right? And so that tells us that we have power. We turn this key once, we get all our lights, everything comes alive, and then we turn it again the rest of the way. Hopefully you could hear that. Got a good fire there. And so we're at about 600 RPM. I'm going to switch this switch to high idle, and that brings it up to approximately 1000 RPM. So we still have some lights on the dash here. This says, it's kind of hard for you to read. There we got low air pressure in tank 1 and tank 2. That's normal because it's been sitting for a long time. There's no air pressure. So we have our air pressure gauges here. They're going to build, and then these lights are going to go out once we have probably about 60 or 70 psi in the tanks. We have a parking brake light on here because the parking brake is indeed on. This light here is to indicate that our tag axle is in the lift position, and although it's not actually in the lift position, we have these valves down here next to my seat, and these are both in the dump position, which is how we have the bus when it is stored. We have everything lowered down because this bus can kneel. So we're going to put these levers back into that position, which is the normal position. We still have the light there because we haven't built enough air pressure to raise the bus up. Oh, good. So our low air pressure lights just went out. And then once we build some more air pressure, our lift axle light will go out. And we want to wait and let the engine build a little bit of temperature, and once we have proper air pressure, which is anywhere between about 100 and 120, then we'll be ready to move the bus. We have this switch over here. This is the kneeling switch. So you also saw those levers over there, but there's also this switch. So with this switch, I can make the bus ride higher than normal, or dump it down low to kneel the front or the back independently. So we're just going to go ahead and click it once to make the bus raise up into its normal ride position. This takes a little bit of time, but so you can see we have this light here indicating that the bus is transitioning height. That light and this light will go out once everything is at the proper ride height and we're ready to move. I sure do love the sound of this bus. Okay, it's been a minute here, but you can see those lights went out. So that means we're at our proper ride height now. We still have our parking brake light because the parking brake is still on. So to drive this bus, we first are going to put our foot on the brake. We're going to reach over here. We're going to push to release the parking brake. You can see the engine idled down. Now this is our transmission. It's a little different than what you probably have in your car. It's just a push button. So we have neutral in the middle, drive and reverse up top, and then these arrows to manually override whatever the automatic transmission wants to do. So we're simply just going to push it into drive, and then we're good to start moving. Okay, we got the bus out. Now it's time to hook it up to the trailer. And to do that, I'm going to use our wireless backup camera. So this is the backup camera that we use for the bus. It actually sticks right on the back It's a magnetic thing. So we have a metal plate stuck on the back of the bus with 3M VHB tape. We normally leave this attached back there, but when I'm hooking up the trailer, I take it off, and look, I'm just gonna take it and I'm gonna put it right here so I can easily see the hitch. And when I back up in the bus, I have it's HD too, so I can see really well. But with this close to the hitch, it's gonna make it super easy to back up and nail this first try. We got it hooked up, so we're gonna pull this in front of the house, and then a little later, maybe tomorrow morning, we'll see how much daylight we have tonight. We're gonna load up the Tesla on the flatbed trailer, and we'll show you how we do that, how we strap it down, and we'll talk a little bit about towing vehicles behind motorhomes. So why do we use a trailer? Well, because it's really the only option to tow a Tesla. It's all-wheel drive, or the one that we have is, and there's just no way to flat tow them or put them on a dolly. We do have another car that we do tow on a dolly. We'll show that in another video. But for this trip, for various reasons, we want to take our Tesla, and the only way to tow that behind a motorhome is on a flatbed trailer. So we got this trailer specifically for this purpose. This is rated, this is a 10,000 pound GVWR trailer, so it can definitely hold our 6,000-ish pound car, no problems. And we have plenty of room on here because we're also going to have a bike rack with our e-bikes on the back of the Tesla. So this is going to be a pretty full trailer. But getting the Tesla strapped on here and in the right place is easy once we had it figured out, but it took a little bit of figuring the first time we did it. There's actually not as much extra room as it might look like. So we'll show you how we do that and how we properly strap that down. Let me know what questions you have about towing vehicles behind motorhomes. We used to have a Jeep Grand Cherokee that we towed behind our previous motorhome, and that worked really well. We also towed a Honda Fit, which also worked really well. We flat towed those. Really enjoyed how well that worked, but it just wasn't an option for the car that we have right now. If you've ever towed a heavy trailer before, you know that you need electric brakes on your trailer, or surge brakes, but we don't have surge brakes, we have electric brakes on this trailer, and this bus did not come with a brake controller. It's a super important thing to have, or else the brakes don't work. Normally what you do is you run a wire all the way from here all the way up to the cabin, and you have a brake controller that will live up by where you're driving, and the wire that you run comes all the way back here and basically into the trailer to control the brakes. I didn't feel like running that wire, so I got the next best thing, which is a wireless brake controller. So I do have a 7-pin trailer connector back here, but it only has power coming out of it for the lights and various functions, but it does not have active control over the brakes. So this is a Kurt product, a Kurt Echo wireless brake controller. Not sponsored, I bought this with my own money, but this basically does everything that I needed, and I didn't have to run a whole bunch of wires. We've used it for about 5,000 miles of towing our car so far, and it works really, really well, and it couldn't be easier to use. This just plugs into here, and then it has this little safety strap. It goes around like that, so this can't fall off. Then you take your regular old trailer connector and plug it into here. Then there's an app that you download, and you can adjust the gain, and you can see the live results and exactly what it's doing on your phone if you have it mounted up near the cockpit, or you can set it once and forget it, and it stores your settings, and it's all based off of gyroscopic data that lives inside of this controller here. So once you set it and you have it adjusted right for the weight of your trailer, you never have to think about it again. Just plug it in and forget about it. Good morning. It's the next day. We ran out of daylight last night, so we have everything prepped. This is our car, and we're going to get it on the trailer. First step is to pull the ramps on the trailer out and make sure the car is centered on the trailer, being ready to drive up on there. It's harder than it might seem, and there's not that much wiggle room on either side, so it usually takes me a couple times of getting out and making sure that the car is properly centered. And so let's see what that looks like from up on the trailer. So you can see that the car is pretty well lined up with these ramps, so there's really nothing left to do except for drive it up on here. Figuring out where the car needs to be on the trailer is an important thing to do. I've done this several times, and so now I feel like I know exactly where the car needs to be for the right balance, but you want to make sure you have the right amount of tongue weight on your trailer. If you have too much tongue weight, obviously that can put undue stress on your hitch, on the tongue of your trailer, on the suspension on your tow vehicle, and also if you don't have enough tongue weight, then that can cause the trailer to hunt and wiggle back and forth when you're going down the road, and that's a big problem too. Ideally, you want to estimate approximately 10% of what you think the total weight of the trailer is going to be on the tongue or on the hitch. So that's takes a little bit of thinking to figure that out for your specific situation, but it's really worth figuring it out and doing it right. We got the car on the trailer. It's pretty much where I want it. The next thing to do is to strap it down. We're going to use what's called a lasso strap, and there's a couple different ways to use them. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So this is a lasso strap. It has a ratchet at one end. This is very similar. This is just a bigger version of probably something you've used before. So it has a hook on one end and then a ratchet on this end, and then the other end is just a strap with one loop at the end. A canvas protector that can slide over the strap, and then it just has a long tail on it. And I'll show you how we're going to use these. As I said earlier, there's two ways to use these lasso straps that they recommend in the manual. I found that one way works a lot better than the other. So one way is to do something like this. Is you wrap it over the tire like this and back through the loop like that. And you want this kind of spread out. Well, actually this should be flipped, but I don't like doing it this way. This is one of the ways that they say in the manual that you can do it, but I tried this and it didn't work well for me. So what I like to do is I like to actually run this through one of the spokes in the wheel. Like this. There's no way that this can come off. And then I make sure you slide this canvas protector around so that when it's going through the loop like this, that canvas is protected, or the strap is protected by the canvas on the ring there. So slide this around until it's pointing where we're going to strap it down. We're going to take the tail end of this strap, run it through the ratchet. So when the ratchet's folded up like this, you run it through, pull some slack out, put this hook down through one of your D-rings, then you tighten it down like this. So I just put a little bit of pressure on this one, then I'm going to go do all the other ones, and then I go back down and snug them all once they've all been tightened just a little bit. That way I'm not pulling anything out of whack too much. Make sure you do something with the tail tied up so it's not flapping around and being distracting for other drivers or potentially damaging the paint on your car. When you're all done, you want to make sure that your ratchet strap is fully closed and locked like this. This little tine is going to be over this piece here and it won't open. You want to make sure that's completely shut. Tie your straps off. You want it to be pretty snug but not too tight. Then we're good to go. Okay gang, that's how we do it. If you're looking at all this and thinking, man, that's a bother, you'd be right. It is a bother. Flat towing is way easier. Actually, even doing a dolly is way easier. This is by far the most bother way to tow a vehicle behind your motorhome, but this is our only option for this car. We're gonna get finished loading up, and then we're leaving in like an hour and a half, I hope. We'll see. So, see you on the road.